Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Homecoming Week and Business 101, our School of Business Alumni Panel webinar, hosted by the School of Business Alumni Chapter. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a few logistical notes to get us started. By joining the webinar, you have the opportunity to interact with today's moderator and panelists in the Q&A box that will be checked throughout the presentation. Our moderator will scan audience questions as the conversation continues. And if you have any questions or concerns during tonight's webinar, please send a direct chat message to me, Katie Parks Green, during the event. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And I would like to kick off today's event by introducing our School of Business Dean, Maury Pipero. Dean Pipero, take it away.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks very much. And welcome, everybody. Great to have you here. One of the most exciting and interesting things we do is connect with our alumni and connect, as we will today, across our alumni. One with another and another. So welcome to the Business 101 Alumni Panel webinar. And I hope you've been having a great homecoming, even though we're not physically together. It's wonderful to see you all. I'm not far from the Fairfax campus right now, and things are happening. So our School of Business alumni are very excited to serve not only as business experts for you, but also as illustrations of where some of our wonderful Mason family have ended up. And you'll see that they are doing interesting things and also have lots of ideas. In fact, our School of Business Alumni Chapter is a business resource, not just for people from the School of Business, but for all Mason alumni and students. And I'd like to make the offer on behalf of them to connect with them if there's anything that they and we can do for you. I want to thank all of our great panelists for joining this afternoon. And I would like to introduce Scott Hine, who is the president of our School of Business Alumni Chapter. He is class of 1985 in Decision Sciences, which we now call Information Systems and Operations Management, ISOM. And he is currently the Deputy Director for Corporate Business Systems at the Department of Energy, which is, of course, one of our government's more complex and interesting areas. So he has been dealing with all kinds of organizational questions and really combining business and government. And so this is actually one of the kind of typical great situations that some of our School of Business alumni find themselves in. So it's my pleasure to thank you all again and to introduce Scott. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, Maury, and good afternoon and good evening, everyone. On behalf of the School of Business Alumni Chapter, I want to thank all of you for attending today. We are pleased to expose you to Mason alumni experts in the fields of accounting, entrepreneurship, finance, management, and marketing. Our panel today will provide you with the latest tips and relevant resources, along with advice on successful people in their field. My role, as Maury mentioned, as moderator, is to help prompt discussions amongst our experts today and to react to attendee questions, which I very much welcome, so please send them in. We do encourage you to stay tuned to our School of Business alumni website and social media for future Business 101 webinars. And please do not, as Maury mentioned, hesitate to reach out to our team with topics that you would like to see in the future for Business 101 webinars. Finally, our School of Business Alumni Chapter is here, as Maury mentioned, as a resource for you. Please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. You could also email us at bizalum@gmu.edu. Now let's kick off our panel. Today, you'll hear from the following: our accounting panelist, Christine Landau, accounting alumna and current director of business engagement and professor of practice at the School of Business. Welcome, Christine. Our entrepreneurship panelist, Michael Gallagher, MBA alumnus and executive chairman of the Stevie Awards. Welcome, Michael. Our finance panelist, David Johnson, finance alumnus and partner at Signature Estate and Investment Advisors. Welcome, David. Our management panelist, Cornell Harris, executive MBA alumnus and practice partner at Wipro Limited. Welcome, Cornell. And finally, our marketing panelist, Avania, marketing alumna and marketing manager at Array Information Technology Incorporated. Welcome, Ava. So we'll go ahead and get that with the introductions. We'll go ahead and get started with our first question that I'll go ahead and throw out to the panel. And whoever wants to go for it first, I'll be keeping track to make sure everybody has a fair opportunity to react to all of our questions in the next hour. Again, thank you, panelists, for being here today and attendees. So, first question, what made you decide to get into this field of business, your particular field, and what do you find the most rewarding and or enriching about your field? Again, I throw it over to the panelists, whoever would like to take that one first.
I'll go ahead and go because it's easier to go first and then you don't have to, everybody else can layer on. So it's funny, as I think about kind of my history and stuff, I would give my mom credit because she told me that she didn't want me to be a teacher. She didn't want to be a nurse. She didn't want me to have a typical female job. And as a result, I was good at math. And so I said, I'll go the accounting route. And it has been such an amazing journey. So I got my undergrad at Mason in 1989, and my master's at Mason in 1992. And I went straight into Deloitte and spent 27 years there working in accounting. And the thing that I love about accounting and find so rewarding is the fact that you can do many different things. And there's so many paths you can take and avenues you can go, and having that financial background and knowing how businesses work and how to make an impact with business is what I have found the most rewarding. And it's funny to see my career journey come full circle because now I teach. So I think my mom's proud of the journey that I went on, but accounting gave me such a huge platform to really see how business operates and how I could be an effective part of that.
Thank you, Christine. Others?
Sure, I can go next. So my field is marketing. Hello, everyone. It was very, very simple for me. I was walking around in streets and I was seeing shops and I thought, this is really cool. Wow, these products are awesome. Why is there nobody in their shops? What's going on? Or like, this thing should be crowded right now. And that's when I found my passion of promoting and helping businesses grow, whether it's small business, whether they're large businesses, helping them grow from, small scale to large scale, or from, the US to expand internationally. And to help a company grow, there are so many impact that you can have in marketing. So I started learning more in depth the different marketing specialties. And I just loved everything. And I understood that you can't have one piece of marketing without the other. Everything comes in together. For example, you can't create marketing campaigns without looking at the marketing analytics, or you can't do branding without, again, looking at the metrics and the KPIs. Everything has to come together. And I just like to see the overall, how everything works. And I like putting a touch of creativity in there because you got to be creative to stand out. And I like to see results. I like to see brands that I believe in succeed and grow.
Well, for me, entrepreneurship was sort of an escape. I'm sort of anomalous in that I didn't start my business until I was in my early 40s. And I'm actually starting a second business now. I'm in my early 60s. We have this media-inspired picture of a entrepreneur being sort of a tech-savvy mid-20s, late 20s person, which is not really the case. Most businesses are actually started by people who are older than 40, which is actually, the age probably when you should start a business, because we have people here today who can talk about accounting and finance and marketing and IT. And as an entrepreneur, I can talk about all those things because I have to know all those things. When you start a business, you're probably the person who's creating the website. You're probably the person who's putting together the marketing plan, who's, I still do some of our own bookkeeping. I had a finance business. So you have to kind of know a little bit about all those things. I've spoken to students at Mason over the years about entrepreneurship, and my advice has always been, don't start a business right out of school, especially if you're, 22 or 23. Go learn your craft on someone else's dime. Get a job or a series of jobs where you can learn what you're good at. You can develop skills. You can make mistakes, because you will make mistakes. But you don't want to make those mistakes on your own bankroll. You want to make them on somebody else's bankroll. And you will find out what you're good at. And every successful business meets at the intersection of what you know and what you love. Because if you can take what you're good at, what you know, and combine that with something that where you wake up every morning and it doesn't feel like you're going to work, you just feel like you're doing what you like to do. That's a recipe for a really good business.
So I'll build on that. So an entrepreneur builds a business, or there is a Fortune 500 that has a business that's been in place maybe 10 years, 20 years, 100. I'm the guy who comes in to help them to take it to the next level. So my focus is in consulting services, and primarily in the energy space, downstream oil and gas, power utilities. So I have a global footprint that looks on sustainability, oil and gas, power utilities. About 14 years with ExxonMobil, covering everything on the East Coast from the refineries to the end user. And then with Deloitte and now Wipro for the past 15 years. So my focus primarily is on digital transformation. It's on programs and projects that maybe require PMP or agile approach, but it fundamentally, I say I function at the point where disruption and transformation comes together. It's how do you actively listen to all parts of the organization, be it the HR, be it marketing, management, and fundamentally take the three groups, and I say that there are three groups in any organization. There is the executive, CEO, owner. That person understands shareholder value, and he, she, or that group is focused on either how to improve their stock value, how to improve profitability and throw it to the bottom line. And then you have the folks on the bottom, who basically, and I say on the bottom, I mean they're customer facing. Those folks are saying basically, tell me what I need to do to make my number, to make my customer, my client, my segment of the business grow. And then you have the folks in the center, which I call the frozen middle, because they have different interests in the organization. Either they've been there for a good deal of time and they're not ready to retire, but it's all about control and power. So it's an opportunity to actively listen to the needs of the organization so that the senior level folks can meet shareholder value. The folks who are customer facing, customer focused can take those transformation projects, take the M&A projects and move that forward. And it's for the middle to understand how that power elevates and moves the organization. So that's my key focus.
Thank you, Cornell. David?
Yeah, I'll jump in next. So it's interesting. So I graduated from Mason back in '95 with a degree in finance. Even though I had an interest and love for investments, I didn't really quite know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to somehow use it. And so took an interview at the firm, and I've actually been with the same firm now for almost 26 years. So I wish I could tell you I had some grand master plan. I just kind of fell into it. But I think, so maybe in the very beginning, it was kind of maybe finances, money was a motivator, but money is obviously only a temporary motivator. You have to have some type of passion if you're going to spend the next 30 years of your career doing something. And for me, that passion really kind of came down to a couple of things. So the firm I work for is probably one of the largest investment advisory firms in the country, but I work mostly with individuals. So I get to meet a huge cross section of people, and the people I meet, sometimes I learn just as much from them. And something that I kind of came across when I was thinking of a story that back when I first got started in the business, I was a few years in, I picked up a client, and this client, he was actually a Tuskegee Airman back in World War II. And here I was, just a few years out of college, and a couple of years prior to that, I would have actually been reading history books about this gentleman and his accomplishments. And here I was sitting at a table with him and his wife, and there was, and so we went through and did business and everything. And they were great clients, but every time I talked to him, it was like he'd tell me something about World War II, or even more fascinating was what he accomplished after World War II. And so the type of people I meet, every day is different, and it's not like Groundhog Day, which is pretty nice. And so I love meeting new people. I'd also say, the challenges of growing a business, because yes, now we have about 110 employees, but I'm responsible for my own team. So every year I write a business plan. And it's nice to be able to write a business plan. We write a business plan, not just for next year, but 5 and 10 year projections, and coming up with the strategy of how I want to grow my practice within a much larger firm is nice, because I can kind of benchmark my progress. And if I meet the objectives, great. You pat yourself on the back, and sometimes you're thrown challenges and you have to kind of figure out, creative ways to deal with those challenges. So I still get the aspect of being an entrepreneur, even though I'm part of a much larger firm. So I kind of get involved. I didn't have to come up with my own capital to get into the firm. In the very beginning, it was really just kind of the sweat equity. And that's not uncommon for a lot of people that become financial advisors. You just have to be, obviously there's the educational component, but you just have to be willing to put in the time it takes to kind of, build up those clients.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone, for that. We've gotten a couple questions have come in so far. I'll go to those in a moment. Just staying on the career field and your experiences, I just want to tie the thread together a little bit. And maybe it's a little bit, certainly a play on what each of you just mentioned. But the next question that we have is, what is one thing you learned or experienced in your field that you did not see coming? So I don't know if you need a pause on that or not, but I think we've all had those, whether they're obstacles or learning opportunities, but who wants to take that one?
I can start with that one because what I would cite is what every entrepreneur will cite, which is your business is never as successful as quickly as you think it's going to be. And there's debate about why so many startups fail in the first 3 or 5 years, and to my mind, one of the reasons is they give up too soon. I remember, we give out awards, we give out business awards, and there was a woman who started the #1, at least at the time, was the #1 smart academic whiteboard company in the world. They were called Smart Technologies. I believe they're still around in Calgary, Canada. And we gave her an award maybe 10 years ago, and she came and she gave a little acceptance speech, and she said, and this really stuck with me, she said the revenue that she and her husband thought they would have in their first year, they didn't have till their 10th year. And I know in my business, the revenue I thought we were going to have in our first year, we didn't have till our 12th year. But, look, going back to the smart technology example, what does that say? It says, well, like every other entrepreneur, they're wildly optimistic about and unreasonably optimistic about how successful they're going to be. But they didn't give up after the first year. They didn't give up after the second year. They didn't give up after the 5th year. They didn't give up after the 7th year. And it's that ability to adjust your expectations on the fly and to be persistent that make the difference very often in young businesses between success and failure. And to my mind, most young businesses fail simply because the owners are unrealistic and they give up too soon.
Okay, if we have time, I'd like to pull that thread a little bit more, Michael. That's interesting. Sure. Thank you. Anyone else want to take a shot at that question?
I think for me, it was all about the pace of change, and it's only gotten even quicker. And I think, the folks coming out of college now, getting comfortable with the fact that things change. I went into the tax field, and obviously there's tax laws and the changes that came that you had to keep up with, the changes in the industry, the changes with the technology, those types of things. To David's point, no day was the same as the one before. And I expected there to be a little bit of that. And every day was different, which again is very exciting. But I think I underestimated the pace of change and the importance of ensuring that you're relevant every single day and that you're enhancing your skills and adding credentials where credentials are needed based on, industry expectations and stuff. And that was something that was there. The other thing, and I had, 27 years in the same firm as well, that was really interesting to me is how entrepreneurial companies want you to be. So they're trying to innovate, they're trying to grow, they're trying to change. And even when you're not, so a little bit to what Michael said with regards to, learn on somebody else's dime, they want you to be innovative. They want you to change. They want you to come up with something, different today, tomorrow than what you did today. And there's a lot of power in that to be able to be part of that change. So I found kind of the change and the entrepreneurship a lot different than what I was expecting.
I'd like to build on that. The thing that for me was, I'll call it thought leadership, because that's a word or a phrase we hear thrown around quite a bit. And what was that meaning to me? So I spent a good number of years with ExxonMobil, and it was all about making your number and never missed a number, bringing profitability to the bottom line. And then I came over to Deloitte. So then when I'm at Deloitte, I'm now understanding that all of the things that we're going to deliver, all of the services we're going to deliver, it's for the client to make their numbers. It's for the client to grow their marketplace. And I'm walking through Philadelphia because my client at that point was Sunoco. Their headquarters is there, and it hit me. I am not here to make the number. I'm here to think, to be compensated for new and fresh and new ideas, to bring thought leadership to the C-suite. And I didn't recognize that until I passed through the downtown Philadelphia, just walking, a place that I've been several times before. It is wholly warm to recognize that your existence is to grow that market. And then you walk away to the next client and you do it all over again.
Okay, thank you, Cornell. David or Ava?
Yeah, I can jump in. It's interesting getting into business. I mean, I knew dealing with investments, I was going to be working inside of a very heavily regulated business. And just even to get started, you had to have multiple securities licenses. And that was just kind of the entry point. Although it was interesting, that knowledge just never stops. Every day when again, 26 years in the business, I'm learning something new every day. My clients expect me to learn something new every day. But that regulatory environment was, it's very interesting because it's constantly changing. And so you have the dynamic market forces of your business and working with your clients, but you also have to keep a very keen eye because, you can be going down one business direction and all of a sudden regulators come in, shut that down, and you can no longer kind of go in that direction for things that are completely out of your control. And so, but the good thing that's actually come out of that is that when I first got started, the regulatory framework was such that you had to be a very big, almost like a multinational corporation, like maybe a Merrill Lynch or a Morgan Stanley. And what's changed is that now individuals can actually set up what's called a registered investment advisor and just get registered directly with the SEC or even at their own state level. So you no longer have to work for this big behemoth of a corporation. You can actually go out and hang up your shingle, and provided you have some licensing there and some knowledge, start gathering clients. And so that was a nice kind of change in the industry. And I think it's for the better because, in our industry, one of the biggest market forces that's changing too is that there's 300,000 financial advisors. 40% of them are retiring in the next 10 years. At the same time that you have 12,000 baby boomers every day getting to the point where they want to retire. So you have this huge increase in demand. At the same time, the number of existing advisors is getting cut in half. And that's just creating tremendous opportunities in our industry for growth. So I didn't expect that coming in, but again, sometimes it's just better to be lucky than good. So
That's true.
And I can add in from a marketing stand that if you work at a larger company, then there will be a team for social media marketing, a team for content marketing, a team for demand generation, et cetera, and so on. But if you're working at a smaller company, you will most likely be wearing all those hats, and you will most likely have a much smaller team. So you will be responsible for a lot more. You have to be fast-paced. You have to learn fast, adapt fast, and be able to answer to your clients and to your other stakeholders in a timely manner so that the projects can keep moving, because you're the one who makes those projects move and you don't have as much room to ask someone else to help you with the projects. So that's just something, if you're interested in working at a smaller company or a larger company, just keep in mind that if it's a smaller, you will most likely be wearing many hats, it has a huge positive point because you'll be learning a lot, which is amazing. But just be ready to work fast-paced and just be ready to learn and apply what you learn.
Great, thank you, Ava. Thank you, everyone. I think we'll go to our first question from the audience. And Michael, this might be best for you. So maybe we'll start with you, but then certainly others if they have responses. So the question is, do you have recommendations for someone looking to create an LLC? Is it worth hiring someone to assist with the paperwork, or is there a good resource to help walk through the process? So I don't know if Michael, if you want to take a shot at that, or certainly.
Yeah, I can address that because actually the second company, which I've started, it basically still in startup mode. It's an LLC, and I think we paid our lawyer $250 or something for him to do all the paperwork. It's not expensive to do that. You do want to talk to a corporate lawyer who understands the different business forms, because when you tell him or her what it is you're going to do, what your company's going to do, they're going to recommend the appropriate form for you. Because if you're going to be in, David Johnson's business, you're going to have one corporate form, where if you're going to be in Wipro's business, you're going to have, probably a different corporate form is going to be recommended. So, bite the bullet, spend a couple $100 and talk to a lawyer.
Well, and I also think, especially when you're, a small business, there's so many great resources, and Mason is connected with a lot of the small business kind of incubators and stuff. And so, definitely get the expertise and the advice, but utilize the resources that are out there, especially for smaller businesses, to get kind of the lay of the land and get different perspectives. And there's a lot of things to leverage, and you can even, through Mason.
Yeah, and I started an LLC actually this past year called Make Ta la Carte. And for this LLC, it's very small business. We started the paperwork ourselves. And then before submitting, we made sure that we shared that with the lawyer to make sure everything is okay, because there is definitely a lot of liability involved in there. And you want to make sure everything is good. And there are multiple pair of eyes on what you're working on before submitting.
Great. Thank you, Michael, Christine, Ava. Thank you. I'll go on to the next question. Thank you. So let me pull that one up here. And again, related to the career field, what is one piece of practical advice you would give to someone starting out or early on in their career?
I'll take that one. I'd say that one of the things that really helped me out in my career is identify a mentor very early on in your career. The number one quality that I look for is somebody who takes an interest in your development and genuinely wants you to succeed. And also understand that the mentor you have in your very beginning of your career might not be the same mentor that you have throughout your career. You might start off, think of your career as kind of like, beginning stage, middle, and maybe towards the end stage. I actually had a very good mentor when I got into business, and he was perfect for starting out because he helped me to create a structure and kind of a framework of accountability when I could have just kind of like cats gone in a million different directions. He kind of got me laser focused. And that was great for that stage of my career. Unfortunately, over time, he's a great mentor, not to take anything away from him. He really kind of got complacent, and he was comfortable in his career, and he didn't want to evolve. And I was kind of on this quest. In fact, I'm still on this quest to just kind of keep improving and getting better every day. And then, after I'm still friends with him, but at the same time, I kind of spun my wheels for a couple of years when I was kind of lost a little bit. And then I came across my existing mentor. And after 15 minutes with him, I realized this is the guy who's going to get me to the next level in my career. And what had happened initially was I kind of set what I want to achieve over the course of my entire career. And when I met with this guy, Brian, my current mentor, he shattered that. Within 15 minutes, I realized what I wanted to accomplish in a career, he was accomplishing every year. I was like, and I think sometimes, I guess also the big takeaway from that is sometimes we create these mental barriers and we compare ourselves with others around, and that's the standard. Okay, I'm successful if I achieve this, but find somebody that can really help take you to that next level. And a good mentor saves you a lot of time. You can easily go down the wrong path, and that could cost you a lot of time and a lot of money, and you may never recover from it, especially if you're a small business owner. Whereas a good mentor can say, hey, I've already tried this, kind of like Michael's point, learn on somebody else's dime or learn from somebody else's mistakes, also learn from their successes, and take that, and it's going to save you a lot of headache.
Thank you, David.
I'd like to say that David is spot on. And then once you incorporate mentor, I would say network. We hear that often again. Network, network, network. There's two portions of networking in my mind. One is when you network, what do you bring to the table? What are you known for? Promotions are generally happen, they'll happen in a room that you're not present. And your networking allows heads to be nodding in your favor. One person that you're working with, you're interfaced with, maybe it's a supervisor, maybe it's someone who you've come to know, senior level. That person is one vote. So when they go in and they bring up your name, what you need to have is 4 or 5 people nodding. Yeah, that's the person I want on my team. But if no one knows you, they will not vote against you. They simply don't vote in your favor. So you need to understand, I believe, what are you known for? What do you bring to the table? How do you communicate that to others? And here's the means in which you can communicate that. I share with folks, my mentees, I need you to be at those rubber chicken dinners. Now, here's what I define as a rubber chicken dinner. After hours, when folks get together, they get to know you, your colleagues get to know you, the next level senior gets to know who you are and what you bring to the table. Then when promotions come up and they happen in the meetings where you're not present, they know what you bring to the table. It's one partner shared with us, a whole host of new folks. He said, I want to share with you something. There is nothing that you will do that hasn't been done already. Build your network. When you need to go to a client, then you reach out to your network, you get the information and you tweak it so that it best fits the need for the day. If you don't have that network, you're going to struggle because everyone in this room is smart. So we don't wear it on our sleeve. Build your network. That's what I'll say.
Great. Thank you, Clark.
And I think, I would definitely echo, everything that's been said, and, also do, a really good job at what you're doing. So often people are looking at the next step to the next 2 steps. And somebody told me early on in my career, there's no job that is beneath you. So, stand up and take on the opportunities that come your way and do a really good job at it. And then say, yes, and what's next? And, always being curious for that next step is important, but doing a really good job and making a name for yourself, no matter what the task. I started long enough ago where, I spent probably the first couple of months just Xeroxing tax returns and standing in front of a Xerox machine. And I could have sat there and said, I got my master's in tax for this, but I didn't. I made sure that I did the best job I could possibly do. And that led to people taking risks on me in other, ways and stuff like that. So be curious and do a great job and keep saying yes. And what's next?
Thank you, Christine. Michael?
My 2 points of advice, a follow up on both Cornell's and Christine's. In second place would be, be a person that other people want to work with all day. When a company looks to hire you, one of the things they're thinking is, can we stand to be around this person all day? And again, as Cornell said, there are a lot of talented and smart people, but if you put 5 talented and smart people in the room and 4 of them are jerks and 1 is just a charming person that you're going to love to work with, that person's going to get the job. So be a person that people want to be around. And the second thing, I think it's really the most important thing, is make excellence a habit. Be the world's best at every task you do. Especially in the first couple of jobs you're going to have out of school, you're going to do a lot of tasks that you'd rather not do. Whether it's making photocopies or somebody plunks a 300-page report on your desk that says, I need a 20-page summary of this tomorrow morning. That sounds horrible, and it probably is, but you know what? Be the best 20-page summarizer in the world, because the world really needs and cherishes people who are really good at what they do. Because frankly, most people are just kind of okay at what they do. The people who are really good at what they do, the world beats a path to their door, and you want to be that person.
I echo everything everyone said, 100%. And for me, what really helped is building my brand when I was still a college student. I started building, who am I? Who do I want to be? And I started being this person while I was a senior at college at Mason, during my internships, during my part-time jobs. I was being the person that I want to be. And when I graduated, I had recommendations from my professors, the people I worked with, who said, this is the kind of person she is. So that's why they wanted me. So build your brand early. Don't wait to figure out, do I want to be a hardworking person? Do I want to be known as the person who's going to pick up the call at 7 a.m., because you guys need help with submission? Or do you want to be the person who takes forever to answer an email? Do you want to be a person who doesn't provide ideas to the table or waits, or someone who's proactive? So be the person you want to be and build your brand early on.
Great. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, everyone. Another question from our attendees. And there's interrelationship in these, so maybe a little bit of potential overlap, but let me just read it as is and see how best each of you can respond. What is the most widely overlooked or underestimated skill or attribute that is key to being successful in business? Now, whether it's business in general or business in your career field, perhaps each of you could take a look at that. So what is the most widely overlooked or underestimated skill or attribute that is key to being successful?
Being an effective communicator, especially in writing. One of the aphorisms in the sales field is you're always selling. And everyone here, regardless of what we do, we're always selling. We have ideas that we have to sell, whether it's to colleagues inside the office or to clients. We're always selling ideas. And to do that effectively, you need to be able to do it not only in speaking, in a forum like this, but especially in a business context, you need to be able to do it in writing. You don't have to be a poet. You don't have to be Walt Whitman or Pearl Buck, but you do need to be able to write a short declarative sentence to express your thoughts fully and clearly. And I would advise anyone who's just coming out of school or is recently out of school, if you're not a decent writer, that's something you got to work on. Because again, that's kind of a basic building block of success in the workplace, is being able to write.
Yeah, and I'll echo, and it's critical to to be able to communicate and all that. But looking at that from a very deep level with regards to understanding your audience, because all too often, especially when you get into the consulting fields and things like that, you have a product to sell or something you're trying to accomplish, but you have to make sure you understand the receiver of that message, because they're not going to receive that message unless you know who they are and how to pitch the message and all that. And I think all too often, folks don't focus on that part. They focus on their mission, what they're trying to achieve, their objective, and they really need to make sure that they're focused on what does my client need. Some of the best advice I gave my client was don't do that. I'm trying to sell you this product or, this added service, but you don't need it. And I know you don't need it because I know who you are and what you're trying to accomplish and all of that kind of good stuff. So build genuine relationships that are focused on your audience and getting to know who they are, so that you can make sure that what you're delivering is targeted and how you're communicating is effective and received and all that.
Yeah, so in business, you're going to have a lot of numbers that you need to hit, right? So they're going to be looking at your numbers, making sure that you're either meeting them or overachieving them. But outside of the numbers in business, you have to work with other people and like the clients and so many other individuals within the company. And I think emotional intelligence is so important in business, not only for your direct team, but also the entire organization and your clients. And I think that will dramatically impact your numbers and your performance.
To build on that, I would say relationship building and understanding who the client happens to be. And the client can be your team for which you're leading, and you may be leading high-performing teams. And in order to accomplish that, you need to have active listening. And that's a skill that many folks need to build upon. Active listening, in my view, is listening as if you don't already know the answer. Because quite frankly, the solution may not come from you or may not come from the individual. It may be a blend of something from 3 or 4 others. So in order to accomplish that, you need to treat everyone with respect in terms of the knowledge that they bring to the table, and understand what each member brings to the table, and then bring that together. So it's building relationships through active listening. I think that that's key.
I would just add one more point to it, which is kind of sort of what Christine said, never create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. I think too many businesses, they're out there, I created this great whatever, and then they go looking for the problem. at the end of the day, if you're a consumer, you have some type of problem. You're going out there and trying to identify a product or service that's going to meet that need. So I think that's the biggest thing, and so many businesses do it because there's a lot of great ideas and a lot of smart people out there, and they create it. But just because you create it doesn't mean they're going to come. So again, just come back to don't create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist.
Great, thank you, everyone. Next question that we have. What attributes would you look for, or do you look for, when recruiting new talent in your field? What attributes, and this could be, perhaps we open this up to skills, experience, certifications, academic, but what is it you're looking for when you recruit for each of your areas?
When I'm recruiting, all those things I set to the side, all those attributes, I look for, what do you bring to the table? What are you known for? Because are you smart? Yeah. So will everyone else that I will interview. They're very smart. They're very capable of doing the job. If you weren't capable of doing the job, you wouldn't be sitting at the table across from me. So what do you bring to the table? What are you special? What are you known for? How can you bring something more, something different, something faster that improves our firm or improves our organization so that we can compete better, faster, different in the marketplace? And I'll just cite an example of a company that may have missed that. You look at Toys R Us, they had one job, that was to sell a product to young mothers. How in the world did Walmart become the largest toy store in the country? They forgot who their customer was. They were not listening. What do you bring to the table? So if you can bring something to the table that grows the market and reaches the customer, that's what I'm looking for.
I think
Some
for
of the
me,
best-
yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say some of the best advice that I've heard about hiring is something that I follow, which is, hire people who are not like you. Alva mentioned earlier that when you're a marketer in a small company, you have to wear lots of different marketing hats. And I've always been a creative marketer, but I'm not really very disciplined, data-driven marketer. And we hired a young woman last year who came in and interviewed for a marketing position, and she knows so much more about marketing than I did. And we hired her on the spot because she wasn't like me. I don't need to hire somebody like me. I already have me. She filled holes that we needed, and and she did that by being good at something, and she showed a passion for that. And I'm not good at data-driven marketing because it doesn't really wake me up in the morning. But I could tell that she was, that she was really excited by that. So, she demonstrated that she had a passion for it, and she knew it. And I think that's what any company's going to look for. You identify your holes and you look to fill those holes.
Yeah, and I think, and we talked about teams. So I think, playing well with others and being able to demonstrate that is really important. And then the ability to be flexible and adaptable, because again, to some of the themes with regards to the pace of change, we're not going to be doing the same thing 3 years from now than we're doing today. So how comfortable are people being uncomfortable? And just taking situations and being able to work through them regardless of what's thrown at them and stuff like that. So that confidence and that ability to be adaptable to the situation and play well with others is critically important in the pace of the world that we live in right now.
And I would like to add that maybe most listeners today are students who have not graduated yet, and maybe they didn't have an opportunity to have internships or part-time jobs. So you're probably wondering, what am I going to do during the interviews? What am I going to say since I don't have any internships or any work experience? Well, you can totally relate your work projects. So if you had team projects during your classes, which I'm sure you did, you can say, hey, during this team project, this is what happened, this is how I contributed. And you can still mention all of the skills that all the panelists mentioned through your experience of team projects at school. So it's okay if you didn't have an opportunity to have work experience before you graduate, you can apply still all of those skills and all of the things we're looking for through your experience as a student.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, especially for our young listeners and viewers today, is that when you're just entering the workforce, employers don't expect you to have a lot of business experience. They want to see that you can comport yourself like someone in the workplace, that you can translate your academic experience, even if it was sort of a quasi-work academic experience, into some useful lesson that you've learned that could be useful in the workplace. You need to comport yourself like someone who's worked for a couple of years, even if you haven't. But the expectation is not that you're going to work like someone with 5 years experience right out of the box. That's not there.
And in this, along the same lines, but do your research. I know that it gets challenging when you don't prepare for interviews, or you don't, you're asking about the things that are very easily defined, because you want to show through your interviewing and that type of thing that the way you'll do your job, right? You'll find the answers, you'll come in prepared, you'll come in ready to attack what's going on, and don't let somebody else do that for you. Research the person you're going to interview with, research the company, understand what the role is, and be able to make those transferable kind of skill discussion points based on what you did in school.
And in addition to that research and coming in on ahead of time, Lombardi time. Lombardi time, Vince Lombardi said, if you're not 15 minutes early, then you're late. That's important.
I like that. Thank you, everyone. And I know we have about 10 or 12 minutes to go. I'll see if I can get a couple more questions in here. One in particular is from a resource standpoint. Is there a particular resource or a set of resources that you could point folks to better understand and get better acclimated, or perhaps a leg up in your particular career fields or domains that would better enable them to position themselves to go off and make an impact? Certainly they could reach out to the business alumni chapter in the School of Business and we can help out. That's a resource. But beyond that, is there anything in particular that anybody would recommend?
The one thing I find in accounting, it's interesting, is people don't use the resources that are out there, like the industry associations and stuff like that. So to really not only understand where you want to go and how you want to take your degree, but to network into all the things that we've talked about before, to understand what credentials have street credibility and, all of that. There's a ton of associations out there. And I think people don't look at that. They look at the companies, but they don't look at the supporting organizations that are there. And that'll just give you a much wider swath of what's going on in that particular industry. And it's a great way to get connected and, get resources and stuff out there. So, think about what organizations and associations support your industry and see what's happening in them. There's a lot that are projecting what's going to be happening in accounting. Are humans going to be part of accounting, or is technology going to take over? Make yourself relevant by understanding what your industry is doing. And then you can talk across companies with regards to what that industry philosophy is.
Yeah, Christine, on that, is there one, not to put you too much on the spot, but from an accounting standpoint, is there a particular industry association, the International Accounting Professional Organization, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Is there one out there that you'd recommend or point people to?
Yeah. If you want to go into accounting, I'm a big believer, and it's probably because I'm a biased believer, you should be a CPA, because it shows, credibility. It shows your ability to process a lot of data and all that kind of good stuff. So I would recommend the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. There's a lot of, affiliation. So there's the Black Certified Public Accountant Association, state societies, the Virginia Society of CPAs, and they look for, and often there's free student memberships. So these guys are trying to get you associated with their organization before you become a paying member. And so take advantage of that, see what they really have to offer. But absolutely, there's a lot but I would start with the AICPA.
Others?
I would actually say, and maybe this is a shameless plug, but George Mason University, they just created a financial planning and wealth management undergraduate degree program. And so a lot of enthusiasm around it. But one of the interesting things, and they've done this for many other majors, they've actually set up advisory councils for each of the different degree programs. And so for that particular one, there's an advisory council of about 20 people I know most of them, they're all top of their game industry people in my industry that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And as a resource, I guarantee if you call up any one of the people on that list, and you can find them by going to the George Mason University, the School of Business website. It's actually under corporate partners and advisory councils. If you kind of drop down the tab, you can actually find these people, call them up, and I guarantee you they'll every single one of them will actually spend time with you. And one of the things I found in business is never be afraid to ask for help. You might think, oh, this person, why would they ever give me the time of day? I kind of found that one of the most flattering things you can ever do to a person is to ask them for help, because it shows that you value their opinion. And it's got me so far. And just don't be shy. Ask the people. But and again, there's for every industry within the School of Business, there's plenty of people who could help you.
And to layer on that just quickly from a shameless plug perspective, Mason Mentors. So there's a mentorship platform, which is you just type in masonmentors.gmu.edu. And there's over 150 of the folks that David's talking about who are alumni or friends of Mason who say, I want to give back. So reach out to that regardless of whether you're a student or an alumni, because we love alumni, mentoring alumni. But check out Mason Mentors and be a part of that solution.
I think it's important for anyone in business, no matter what you do, to be generally well informed. And that's going to mean reading newspapers. I know podcasts are very, I listen to podcasts too, but podcast, the amount of text that's essentially read in a podcast is one column in a major newspaper. I think it's important to, read the New York Times, read the Washington Post, read the Wall Street Journal, read the Financial Times. There's lots of great email newsletters now, like Morning Brew and Quartz and Business Insider. And some of your best ideas in business will come from a story that has nothing to do with your industry. If you work in IT, you may read a story about something that's happening in the restaurant industry or food service. And a great idea can come from that. And that's only going to happen if you're very well informed. But another reason you want to be generally well informed is that a lot of business people get into an information bubble that's in their industry. They read the trade press in their industry, and they're kind of a savant in their industry, but they kind of don't really know what's going on in the world. And the world means not just in the USA; it means around the world. And if you read newspapers, and you don't have to get newspapers delivered to your house like it's the 1970s, you can read their websites. And if you support journalism, you can pay for the subscriptions like I do. It's really the best way to know what's going on, not only in this country, but around the world. And I really recommend that to any student.
Ava, Cornell, anything to
What
add?
helped me the most was mentoring. Honestly, that was the best resource because you can directly ask your questions and get input from someone that you really look up to, and they can be honest with you. So mentoring has been the best. Thank you for bringing it up, Kristen. And then I would say if your field is marketing and you're looking into a job that requires a marketer certification, for example, or sales certification, then look into those communities and just let the community know who you are, where you come from, interact with them, and you could ask your questions on those sites as well. And you will have other members of the community who may be way more experienced than you answering this for you.
Thank you, Ava. Cornell, anything on your end? Anything to add? Or
For me, resources are people. I think you come to the table with, if you're in consulting services, with Agile and PMP and SaaS, everyone expects you to do that, but it's building your network, having a mentor or mentors. If I take a look at petrochemicals, quite frankly, an undergraduate with a petrochemical engineering degree right now can get 6 figures with no experience. Why? Because the average age in the refineries is about 58, so they're all retiring. If you start networking, and if you are an engineer or in that field, you start to find people who have been doing it for 20, 30 years and are retiring, and they can shuttle you in and teach you and show you how. Whatever the industry may be, it's important to have a very strong network, continue to build that every day. have your network, know what you bring to the table, and have at least 2 mentors, minimum.
Good, thank you. And I know we're coming down to the home stretch, 4 minutes or so to go, and I got that, Katie. We'll make sure we wrap on time. We're shortly thereafter. But I did want to give each of you, and I do want to thank you for your time this afternoon, this evening, and spending it with our attendees. But obviously we barely touched on the surface of your areas, and that's unfortunate, but at least we perhaps whetted the appetite a little bit. But without there being a canned question, I would like to go around each one of you and give you an opportunity to share something that perhaps we didn't touch on this evening that you think is important to get the word out, and perhaps to tee up a future 101, which we're going to do on entrepreneurship or on accounting or on financial planning or on marketing or on management, or particular, not just on a academic area, but in a particular career field. So I do want to, it's kind of like a wild card question, just to throw it out there and see each one of you, again, perhaps you could each spend about 45 seconds. If I do the math as an engineer in my head quickly, I think we can make that work. But anyway, whoever wants to take a shot at their wild card question, anything you'd like that you think would benefit others and perhaps tee up a future conversation.
I'll start that one.
Thank you, Cornell. I appreciate the leadership. Well done, sir.
Have a global footprint. Understand what's happening in other markets outside of the US. I've had the opportunity to be in Budapest, Hungary, and have a translator while I work with the oil company of the state. I've had an opportunity to work in South America and in New Zealand and in the UK. I find that there's more in common than there is dissimilar. Have a global footprint.
I would say help others, and all too often, especially when you're trying to get out of school and you're just focused on yourself, help others, because it'll pay dividends down the road, and it'll make you feel really good in it. Nobody ever goes it alone. So, be that support for somebody, try to help somebody. And it's amazing, what comes back to you.
I have a couple of Mason related recommendations. One is if you are a School of Business student or alumnus, join the alumni chapter. I've been involved with it for 11 years. We have meetings, we do fun stuff together. It's a great way to network. You've had everybody, probably except me, talking about networking tonight, but it's a great way to network. And the other thing is, related to entrepreneurship, Mason actually has a Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship led by Dr. David Miller. I'm sure you can find information on it on the Mason website. So if you are a entrepreneur wannabe or a young entrepreneur that's looking to network with other entrepreneurs, or just talk out problems or ideas, get in touch with David Miller and he can introduce you to what's going on at Mason related to entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Dave?
Yeah, I would just say, whatever you do, do it with enthusiasm. Whether it's networking, if you see a person in a room who's positive attitude, who's enthusiastic, it's contagious. It's just going to create a better vibe for the room, and people just want to associate themselves with people who are a positive attitude. And if you're going to lead an organization, you always have to be positive, because it's not always going to be a pretty sunny day outside. You take back to March of last year in my industry, the stock market dropped 33.5% over a matter of a couple of weeks. And so I had to be still very realistic, but positive with clients, and letting them know, hey, it's not the end of the world. We're going to get past this, and this is why. But that's what they were looking for. They knew the advice I was going to give them even before they called me up. They just said they wanted to hear my voice and just know that it was going to be okay. So.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would say passion. That's what I tell everybody who asks me, like, what should I do? Is do whatever you're doing with passion, or don't do it. Move on to something that you're passionate about. You don't want to wake up every day and do something you're not passionate about. And you can see that passion. So do it with passion or don't do it. That's my advice for marketing.
Perfect. And well done, everyone. Right on time, as always. Appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. I do want to give perhaps a virtual round of applause to our alumni panelists. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Again, just as a reminder, the Business Alumni Chapter is here for you. All of you, as several have mentioned today, please reach out to us. Hope you have an enjoyable homecoming weekend and continuing with homecoming activities. stay tuned for future communications regarding other events. And as Michael said, feel free to attend a business alumni chapter meeting. We have one coming up on the 22nd of February, Monday. So let us know if you'd like to participate. And again, thank you all. Appreciate all that you've done. And thank you, each one of our panelists today. Thank you. Have a good day and have a good evening, everyone.